The UFC 277 fight card was announced. We never really got around to it, so today is certainly a day where we could do that. BC, the card would basically be as follows. Now, of course, as we know, this will be July 30th. They are subject to change, but as it stands, there'll be the rematch between Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes. This, of course, will also be the finale, or the conclusion, or whatever you want to call it, essentially, of the Ultimate Fighter season. Brandon Moreno versus Kai Kara France for an interim title. Derek Lewis versus Sergey Pavlovich. Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold, although that might be moved back now to August, which we'll talk about. And then rounding out that main card, Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith. BC, I'm not sure where you want to start. Perhaps for just the news purposes, Luke Rockhold telling Submission Radio just yesterday, the video came out this morning or late last night, where he said that Paulo Costa is trying to now move the fight back to August. Now, as we know, BC, usually if a fight is booked and it gets delayed like a month or something, maybe even a couple of weeks, there's usually like a small injury, or the UFC is trying to mix and match other parts that may need a boost in terms of star power or card credibility. Luke Rockhold seems to be very upset about it. What do you make of it?
What, his fight getting moved, essentially?
Yeah, essentially getting delayed again, because it's been delayed before.
Without knowing the reason, I certainly don't like it. What I don't like about it is that it waters this card down. And this is the second pay-per-view in the same calendar month of July that UFC is doing. But it's starting to feel a little rob Peter to pay Paul. We just talked about this International Fight Week card, Luke, which is like very good, but not great in terms of the consistency that we've known. Although it is deep, there's obviously fights you want to see. We're going to be there, by the way, in Las Vegas, July 2nd, happily. But the point is, now you're coming back with a second pay-per-view card the same month. And look, we love the main event. We need it. The co-main event shouldn't have that interim title, but even that aside, it's a rematch that we all want to see. But Luke, I think it's lacking that big-time kick the door in type of I need to reflex, knee-jerk reflex by this because this person is on the card. I do think this pay-per-view card lacks it, and now you're taking this Rockhold fight, which has hella intrigue. In fact, it's really in many ways sort of the perfect guaranteed action, interesting fight, big names that you throw on a card like this to boost it up and give it that extra flair. If it's going to be missing this, Luke, right? I mean, tell me I'm wrong, Luke. There's a little
because it wouldn't be clear what from the rest of the card you would sub in that could match it. There are other good fights on the card, but none of them have any relevance, I would say, to where Rockhold and Costa would be in terms of the part of the middleweight division. So it would be Justin Tafa versus Dontel Mays, no. Drew Dober versus Rafael Alves, no. Diego Ferreira versus Jakar Close, fine fight, but no. Ramiz Abrahima versus Michael Morales, no. Ji-Yeon Kim versus Maria Agapova, no. And then lastly, Nikolai Negumereanu versus Ihor Potieria, I guess. I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. But obviously, no. So it's a clear loss, and you would have to sub out something from another card to even get close to this. To your right, so you're rob Peter to pay Paul. Now, that's not been confirmed 100%, so that still could have it. So in the event that this stays at, we introduced the possibility that Luke Rockhold and Costa might be moved. If they stay on the card, BC, give me a grade for that main card. Ankalaev Smith, Costa Rockhold, again, assuming that it stays, Lewis Pavlovich, Moreno, Kai Kara France, interim title, Pena, Amanda Nunes, full-on weight class title. What do you think?
Okay, for a summer pay-per-view, I'm going to give it a B. And there's good and bad with that grade. Do you think I'm being too harsh, Luke? When you do two pay-per-views in a month, like I'm not asking them to be 2016, where they were trying to sell the company. And we got like a really good fight night card with a title fight with Eddie Alvarez on top on one night. Then a really good tough finale with, the Joanna Claudio rematch on the main event of that fight. And then we go into one of the deepest cards ever, UFC 200 the next night. I'm not asking for that. But for two pay-per-view cards in the same month, if you combine them together, do you know what we have? We have a loaded summer blockbuster, typically in line with what we see on International Fight Week. So I'd be a little more happy of that. But if we're going to stand firm like we are right now, Luke, that's a B at best for this card. And I understand I'm complaining during a season, especially mid and post-quarantine, in which, God, UFC was not only the leader in all of sports, in combat sports for sure. You're always getting what you want. Well, this summer we're getting a little bit of watering down, Luke, and that's just the truth. It is.
Yeah, I would say if you pulled stuff from this card and put it on 276, to your point, for International Fight Week, that card would be great. And it's not just that. Now, some of this wouldn't be solved, but you wouldn't put everything from this main card on that summer blockbuster 276, which means you would have a little bit left to like fortify some of these fight night cards, dude. Some of these fight night cards are a main event and then LFA. Like, it's just they're barely UFC cards, or at a bare minimum, indistinguishable from high-level LFA or high-level CFFC from whatever you're watching on the screen. This, if you could move, like, you know, Ankalaev versus Smith to a co-main event role on a fight night, and then have Costa versus Rockhold on it or something like that, dude, that'd be great. That'd be a great fight night card. 2, potentially 3 or 4 potentially fights you could have. That'd be of decent quality. But, dude, they're pumping out a lot of these cards that have the only value to them is that it keeps the divisions moving. Those fighters get the fights that they need to have their contracts fulfilled, and the UFC puts up enough cards together to make ESPN happy over the course of their lifetime of deal. But, like, are the cards designed to maximize consumer happiness? No, of course they're not. They're not even close to that.
They seem designed to fill dates. So I want to ask you, like, being understanding but being critical and direct, who are people buying UFC 277 for? Like, God, I want to see Pena Nunes up, you know, I want to see that bad. I'm in, right? I'm your customer. I want to see it. There's history, there's intrigue, there's everything. But who is the casual fan buying this card for, in your opinion, Luke?
The casual fan probably isn't buying this card very much. I mean, Juliana Pena is the champion, and she has put herself in a pretty tremendous position. She does have something of a name. I think that will matter. Same for Amanda Nunes, arguably the greatest women's fighter of all time, probably the one walking away. But she is not so much a commercial draw, never really has been. Again, I think she's gotten a lot better over the years with that. I'm not saying this is some kind of character flaw. I'm just saying, what does the market bear when she's in a headlining role? Not necessarily all that much. You look at the supporting cast. These are great fights. Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara France, Costa Rockhold, Ankalaev Smith. Like, dude, there's nothing wrong with any of them. As I mentioned, Derek Lewis. But none of those names are really the kinds of names, or none of these matchups are the kinds of matchups that really dial it up on, hey, are the casual fans interested? This is the hardcore fan delight, plus a little bit of that casual fan base. So again, casual fan bases exist in sort of concentric rings of how close they get to MMA Center. You're not going to get the ones at the far end, the ones that only Conor can capture, or even John Jones for that matter. This would be a step down from that as well. So it's still good. Don't get me wrong. Fight quality on the main card, the fight quality on the main card is actually really high. The casual fan base bait is next to nothing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And again, you know, it's the same month. We're getting 2 of them, but you are asking fans to pay for both of those,
right,
when it probably could be one card. But Luke, that aside, this, along with the tough season placement, has allowed Pena Nunes the best, you know, it's the best possible chance to be a commercial success and get everybody involved. I don't know how to act heading into this. Like, I can't wait to see it. I really enjoyed interviewing Juliana Pena a few weeks back, or a month ago, whatever it was, when the tough season was announced. But do you think by the time we get to July 30th that this could feel like a big time rematch? Because historically, like, it is, right? I mean, even if this ends up, even if you're a Juliana critic and hater and you're like, this is Matt Serra GSP part 2 about to happen, I don't necessarily think, you know, I mean, look, do I think at the end of the day it could happen? Yeah, I do. But the whole point is, even that was a massive must-see event. Do you think this fight will build to a fairly significant height through the vehicle of Tough and you know, giving them the placement that, you know, I'll say it, they deserve? This fight matters.
Tough exists as an abstraction in my life. I don't really have a clear sense about who watches it or what kind of role it plays as a promotional vehicle. When it was doing big numbers on Spike or for a short time, FS1 or whatever it was, you could at least make some kind of inference about how much this would buoy the fighters who came from it, the overall vehicle itself, or any potential card. You know, like I talked about it before, like, what was it, UFC, whatever it was, when it was Chuck Randy 2. That was the first one post Ultimate Fighter. It clearly boosted it at that time. It clearly played a role at that moment. I don't know if it plays any kind of role like that. Again, I think it's just content for ESPN Plus and hardcores to stream so they can stay on site as long as possible. It's just a usage thing for them. It's not really a promotional vehicle in that other sense. Now, between now and then, could this ratchet up to a war of words? Could there be, you know, a big push after the 276 hangover and whatnot? Yeah, like there is some room, I would say, for the intrigue of this fight, the ugliness, so to speak, of their rivalry and whatnot to boost it, perhaps more than just what you might assume here on May 25th. Fair enough. I think that's probably pretty real. We have 2 months basically before this happens. There's a lot that could happen in that time. But the baseline of what could be expected from either or this rivalry in particular is not especially high in that sense. That's what I would say.